And good morning, everyone. It is the beginning of the Labor Day weekend, Friday morning, September 1, 2023. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. And, of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on our regular Saturday show. This is also thought of this way, the unofficial end of summer. It marks the end of the summer season, and school starts and everything that goes with it. Good morning, 710 KNUS Weather Center weather. 96 will be the high today. Wow. 95 on Saturday, 92 on Sunday, and the day itself it'll be 87 degrees. Billy Thorpe, Peter Boyles together again, 710 KNUS, back tomorrow morning. And then I got the call what I do Tuesday afternoon drive. I said, sure, of course. I love being back in the business. So Billy Thorpe and I talked about this. And these are one of these ideas that I've had sort of rolling around. Like, I don't get a chance to go out and run an idea every day now. I have to wait until Saturdays until somebody's taking some time off. But this is the unofficial end of summer, and it marks the end of the cultural summer. And this is the 2-week vacations, and all of this end Labor Day weekend begins and fall activities and school and sports. I bounced this off, I don't know, about 10, including my own children, in a 24-hour period. Did you hate school? And then why? And did you like school? And then why? And maybe we can learn something. I hated school. Now, Billy Thorpe, on the other hand, you liked school.
Yeah, I did. It was fun, and it's not enjoyable as, hey, this is wonderful, and I'm bouncing out of bed, but it wasn't the most painful thing. We're dealing with the jerks that I had to go to class with, and even then,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I early on in my life, I realized that what those people thought of me didn't impact what I thought of me. So, you can't even hurt my feelings, as I say to a lot of people. It's difficult. So I didn't care. And I found a lot of joy inside of learning. And it's one of these weird things where one of my kids has said that I at times exhibit autistic tendencies. And there's a point there where, I'm not on the spectrum, but I have this desire.
That works for this business.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
That when I find something new, I have to absorb all of it.
Sure.
I have to. And I go down these rabbit holes where, I need to find everything. We had an example earlier this week where I was notified that an impression that I had about the tailgates on a pickup truck creating drag, that is actually not true anymore based on how the designs have changed. And that's wonderful. And I'm it's difficult for me to admit how many hours of video I watched about the aerodynamics inside of a pickup truck and how many different little studies and things I did during biology in high school. The biology teacher says, well, technically viruses are not alive. What? Wait a minute. And then he walks through what the qualifications are for life, and viruses don't meet all of them.
No one's sure about what a virus is. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Yeah. And so that sent me down a 6-month rabbit hole about everything I could learn. It was, I remember my father was the friend of one of the big zoo curators, Clayton, and sitting down, and he still talked about how when I was in kindergarten, I would sit there and I was discussing dinosaurs with this guy that was running the zoo. And he looked at my dad like, wait a minute, how does this kid, because I absorbed everything I could about it. So that was good. Now there were things that I ran into that were really difficult. 7th grade English, I had some issues with not wanting to do the work. Not that I couldn't, but there were some things I was going through, and I didn't want to. And chemistry kicked my butt. AP chemistry, ow, that hurt. But I made it through it. I wasn't going to give up. And so there were those moments where it was hard and there were things that were difficult to do. But no, by and large, the only real, the problem that you had going through school was changing for gym class and locker room. That's about it. That's about the most stress that really was there. Everything else, I viewed it as something to get through, to accomplish. It wasn't, I didn't look at it as punishment, as some of my children seem to think it is at times.
All right, watch this.
Yeah.
School is traditionally, I know that my grandson started before Labor Day, but as an old man, you always went back to school after Labor Day.
Yeah.
And of all people, Chuck Bonnewell and I were talking about this yesterday. Why, the unofficial end of summer is as we speak, and it marks the end of the cultural summer season, which I think is really well put together. School starts for everybody will be back in school come Monday, or yeah, well, excuse me, on Tuesday after Labor Day Monday. Did you hate school? And if so, tell me why. And if you like school, please tell us why.
Yeah. And who was that teacher that made it special for
There's
you?
always one
Yep.
or two.
And then who's that teacher that made it rough? Who's that one teacher that you're like, oh, if I could see so and so today?
Yeah, but I was telling my daughter likes school. We talked about it last night. She said, "No, I like school, Dad." And I hated school after the fifth grade. After the fifth grade, I hated school, and I don't even know why I went. And now, of course, it's pretty self-evident that these kids are really doing well, and they don't even go to college. And there's they're bypassing college altogether. So the day after Labor Day means generally the first day of school, and the starting school the day after Labor Day has always been a tradition. But I thought about this a lot. I truly did. I'm looking back on it. I learned less than nothing. And this is on me. I'm not talking about I'm blaming the school system, because I'm by no means doing that. But I hated school. Did you? 303-696-1971. And someone said, "Do you remember the name of the mascot?"
Oh, yeah.
All right. Do you remember the mascot?
Yeah, I had in one school it was the Rams. I had Mustangs in high school.
All right.
So yeah, I remember that one. We were Indians for a while in college, and then that changed because
That's
that was
gone.
no longer. Yeah, that was no longer allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't. What were your mascots?
Indians.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if they still are.
Oh, probably not.
No,
Probably
I
not.
guess not. But
Yeah, probably not. Who was the teacher that really inspired you? And then we'll talk about the one that you didn't like. But
Mrs. Benkowski.
Oh, why? What year and what was it?
I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
But she was she was, I don't know if she was empathetic to the fact that down deep inside maybe there was something smart that laid down in there. But this is a true story.
Yeah.
I was in an English class, ninth grade, and they were reading epic poems.
Ooh.
And came across I really went into a Kipling thing, like you were talking about deep diving.
Yeah. And
she said, if you can memorize a Kipling poem, I'll give you, because I would totally fail the class.
Yeah.
And she said, I'll pass you in this class. So you can talk of gin and beer when you're quartered safe out here, but when you're sent to penny fights and altar shot at. But when it comes to slaughter, you do your work on water.
Oh, wow.
And you lick the blooming boots of them that's got it. Now, in India's sunny clime, where I wish to spend my time, servant of Her Majesty the Queen, of all the black-faced crew, the finest man I knew was a regimental beastie, Gunga Din. It was din, 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 the bullets flying in. So I went on, and I actually memorized Gunga Din.
Oh, fantastic.
And so I can still do it.
And that's the crazy thing. I had a class where I had to memorize poems as well. Yeah. And I can go back, and there are pieces that I can pull back.
I can do it.
It's Frost, it's Kipling. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did, and I did it to myself last night to make sure I still could.
That is remarkable. And it's neat that the teacher saw that in you.
She saw it. So I had to stand up I had to stand up in front of the class.
Still. Yeah.
And I didn't want anybody to know I'd done that, because wasn't cool. And so, but I did do it. There's a place we've gone where there's always double drill and no canteen, and he'll be squatting on the coals, and he'll be giving drinks to poor damn souls, and I'll get a drink in hell from Gunga Din or Dean. And they said Dean.
Yeah.
And so then I saw the movie.
Oh, that's great. What a good story.
But I can do Gunga Din. And so she looked at me and she gave me a B, I think. So probably the only B I ever got. And then her talking to me about, you're smart, and what's wrong with you? And what's wrong with me was whatever the hell was wrong with me. So I hated school. I hated everything about it. My friends were there, and somebody said, who was it that said, oh, Kelly Michaels.
Yeah.
So I bounced it off of Kelly Michaels yesterday. Did you hate school? And he said, no, because I could see my girlfriend.
Oh, there you go.
Now, there's a reason. So 303-696-1971, as Monday is the official back-to-school day for just about everybody by then. It seems to be, from my reading to get ready for this, that going to college isn't necessarily the thing that a lot of young men and women are doing. They're making their way through the world simply by not going and learning a trade. And it's always interesting if you ask yourself, what if I'd have learned to weld?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or something, some skill that pays.
I had that conversation with myself not less than 72 hours ago. Because of certain things going on in my life and other things. And it's like, what if I would have known this? And what if I could have gone this direction? And I'll tell you a story about it in a second. I'm going to go chat with the phones.
The point of it is, what can we learn from, and maybe nothing at all? Did you like school? And I talked to some of my friends last night who absolutely loved school, but they were either handsome or very pretty young women, got good grades, liked to socialize. My daughter talked about her friends. They were her friends at school. She liked school. The whole time, I thought it was just the worst. I said, well, why am I here? So Billy's talking to people off here. We'll get them up. Yesterday afternoon, we did a goodbye to Tommy Muller, and Jeff was there and Kenny was there. We'll put everybody on the air this morning. Crystal Baldwin's on the show. We start with Marcus. Hey man, you're on a radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. I hated school too.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. And I became a dropout.
Did you quit?
I quit.
I thought about it.
I ended up in the military.
Yeah, no, I thought about it a couple times. Did you ditch school a lot? Like not go to school?
Sometimes, and
no,
with the old man, I'd get a beating.
Oh yeah, sure. Did you go to school today? That was always in Goodfellas. Remember when the mailman brings home from the public school that he's not going to school, and the guys grabbed the mailman, put his head in the pizza oven.
They tell on you too if you didn't show up.
Oh yeah, they call the house. we both know that.
Yeah.
So what year did you quit?
I quit back in the 70s, and then I ended up in the military and doing tours and everything in the combat zones. And to become a sergeant, you had to have a GED. So
and you, man,
you had to go to night school.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, and then when I got out, I ended up going to college, and I
on a bill
did pretty good, and because I thought outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like you. It's just people are individuals. And so life was good then.
I dreaded it. It was like coming to the end of August and you knew what was around the corner.
Yeah.
And I just dreaded it. And it was like, we were talking about it last night. We knew, or at least I know now, it was kind of shame-based. We're the skinny little Irish kids, that didn't have any money. And
It's so true.
Oh, it's
3 months vacation.
Oh, yeah.
You're out there working, trying to make a few dollars.
Yeah. Sitting on the fence. No, and it was really weird. But I truly, and my daughter was looking at me, and I said, I like college. When I got to college, I really blossomed isn't the right word, but I really liked it. But boy, I tell you what, I remember like 6th grade, where my grandson's in that grade right now and likes school. I checked with him. I said, hey, you like school? Yeah. All right. You know, he ran in and try and run much on me. He'll tell me straight up what's going on. I said,
Yeah.
do you hate school? He said, no. So, but Billy liked it. I hated. I bet you $20, and he's not here. Brauchler liked school because he's one of them guys that's smart and he did well. And no, I'm serious. And he,
No, I hate to laugh,
here comes
but-
Billy. Here
Yeah.
comes Billy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, George had a love-hate relationship
Oh, did
with
he?
schooling.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the class clown,
Oh, was
and
he?
would scrape by in some classes just enough. And
Okay.
and there was kind of a love-hate. There were certain things that he liked, and certain things we talked about it off the air. Certain things he enjoyed,
All right.
and certain things that were absolutely awful, and certain teachers that he felt were just out to get him in and of itself. But yeah, wasn't an awful experience, but wasn't something that he would go back and revisit if given the chance.
I just didn't care. Did back to Marcus. I mean, I legitimately.
Yeah.
You know,
We did our Pledge of Allegiance every day.
I did that. See, I don't know. You may be too young. We did. I was a prayer in school kid.
Yeah,
And-
I know. You were
yeah.
Roman Catholic too.
Yeah, and we were the prayer in school kids. But you know, I don't think that bothered me. I don't think that bothered me at all.
That didn't, we
so-
did the Pledge of Allegiance
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
and
no, it's all great.
This ain't Leave It to Beaver, but
No,
and I hated sometimes. God, the old man was hard on me. But
you had to read. Some kid would read the Bible,
yeah.
and they would just open the Bible, and it would be like not connected to anything. And they'd read the Bible, and you know, and then what was first was the Bible was first. The prayer was
Pledge of
second.
Allegiance was second.
Oh well, the pledge was second. I can't remember.
Yeah, because anytime you started class, there was the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh no, you had something that was called.
Yeah, but there was, and the Bible, Judah, Christianity, and everything.
But it was Christian. I mean, there wasn't any.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was the kid that came up and read the Bible, and then the Lord's Prayer, aka our Father, and
Our
then,
Father,
and then
art in heaven.
yeah, then we did the flag, and that was called homeroom. And
I think we were brainwashed, Peter.
you know, some of it never hurt you, when you think back on it, but
they wouldn't know what you were saying.
No, I had no idea.
Those are different times.
A couple of hard heads. You're just trying to get. All you're trying to do is get by. And then
that's honest.
And then kids that I smoked young, and kids smoking.
I remember when you could smoke at high school.
I'd say we're never allowed.
But it was always in the bathroom.
Oh, always.
Smoking in the men's room.
Smoking in the boys' room. Yeah, it was 3 days.
That's right.
And there are always some kids sitting in like everybody would gang into those into the stalls, right?
Yeah.
And then they'd pass a cigarette underneath, right? And like it was, you couldn't see, there was so much smoke in there. And then some teacher would kick the door, and everybody would douse them, and then but we were smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo, man. We didn't know. I mean, but it was like, so I'm checking. The good call, man. Thanks. You made the morning already.
Oh, geez.
Thanks, brother.
You brought back memories.
You're kind. Thank
care.
you. All right. 303-696-1971. It's going to be 96 for a high today. 95 on Saturday. I'm back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It's the first morning of September. This is also, of course, the unofficial end of summer. It marks the end of the cultural summer season. What happens? School districts resume classes right after the Labor Day holiday. I hated school. and let's see. And we all turned out pretty well, didn't we? I wonder how it compares with today's kids. Well, that you knew that was coming up. So, William, I don't know if I don't follow the morning format anymore, so you're in charge of all of this. At 20-ish? Okay, so we got They have a really small clock anymore. Okay, we'll take the call. All right, we'll do the call. All right, we'll go to Mike. Mike, you're on a radio show, man. Good morning. Thank you. September the 1st.
Oh, the new day is new
Yes, it
dawn.
is. It's a new day.
And
Yes, it is.
can I say first, I love the new Peter Boyle's 2.0.
The meds are kicking in, man.
What?
The meds are kicking in. Yeah.
Pardon me, I have a
That's cool.
GERD. So yeah. Gosh, well, where do we go from here?
Did you hate school?
Yeah, and I heard you say that, and so did I. I cried terribly when I had to go to kindergarten, and
No, we're losing your call.
oh,
Mike, speak up. I'm sorry, you're fading on me.
okay. Yeah, I hated school because it took me away from my cartoons on TV.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, our beautiful still photos.
You call
Black
back.
and white.
Listen, do me a favor. Call back. I'll get you back on the show right away. All right, 303-696-1971. Also, name and mascot. Billy remembers his. 303-696-1971. Did you like school? I mean, it'd be wonderful to hear from people that are totally unlike me. And they said, yeah, I love school. And here's why. Did you hate school? I did. Ugh. School. Tommy, Jeff, and Kenny are on the show. Crystal Baldwin's on the show. MC1's coming up. It's going to be 96 for a high. It's Peter Boyles in the 710 KNUS for George Brauchler. Good morning, everyone. Morning, everybody. Happy Friday, 710 KNUS, September 1, 2023, 303-696-1971. People dropping on and off the phones as everyone now will return to school, the unofficial end of summer, Labor Day. And I thought about this one. I said, this might be a great on-air, and so far it's been a lot of fun. Did you hate school? Mandatory sending people to school. Did you hate school? Why? What classes in particular? What teachers in particular? And Billy and I were talking about gym teachers off the air. And there are people that like school, genuinely liked school. I certainly was not one of them. But then this is Labor Day, and what I remember is like Labor Day parades. When I'm a kid, man, when the mills were working in the mines and the forges and the factories, and then the Union would march on Allegheny River Boulevard. And later, as a kid, they would throw these really great Labor Day parties. And somebody else may have had this experience, but they took doors, just like the door on the studio, without the hardware. There wasn't, the places where to put the handles or the hinges. And they would put down sawhorses. You guys know what sawhorses are. And then they'd lay the doors down on top of the sawhorses. That was the bar. And they'd have maybe 8, 10 sawhorses, lay the doors down, and that was the bars. And then Iron City would send these beer trucks. And the beer trucks would park, and it was free beer. It was free beer. And they would dole out beer, just put pitchers down on top of these doors, blank doors. You guys pour their own. But then they made these great big buckets of sausage and sauerkraut. And I it was great. And they'd start like the night before, but you go to different places. Fields and Universal Atlas was one of the places that I remember the best. Oftentimes there were disagreements, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. There would be some gentleman would have a disagreement over something that had happened during that year, and it got settled. I think in a way that I don't think we allow things to get settled anymore, but it would get settled, and guys would have a rub on something, and you did this or you did that, and the superintendents would come, and it would be like, okay. But I remember that for Labor Day too, the Labor Day parades. And as a young man, I went to the Labor Day picnics, but it was the beginning of school. And I remember just having that feeling, and it happened to you about halfway through August. I said, man, I got to go back. So if you liked school, tell us why. I'm more than willing to be jealous of you that you like school. If you were like me and you hated school, why did we hate school? Was it because you get confined, or was it because they told you what to do? I don't know. But now today, I was reading last night to gear up for the show, and now they're talking about how many kids now don't want or don't go to college. Because they want nothing to do with it, which I kind of understand that too. But, today, because if you listen to talk radio, that colleges are no longer educational. They are like re-education camps for the progressive left. They're also not offering what kids need. College is no longer, or maybe it's a better person to ask is Bill, but is college, Billy, no longer a necessity for getting ahead in life? I don't think it is.
No, it really isn't. And well, okay, let's make this honest. It depends largely in some cases the name on the diploma. Like if you have those upper echelon names on the diploma, yeah, you're gonna get ahead because it will just simply open doors. The weird part though is, I guess, that there is a good pull back to the trade schools, which is wonderful, which is one of those things that you forget that back in the day, you're sitting in the class and the teacher's, talking to you about,
Mhm.
oh, you got to better study hard. You got to go to college,
Mhm.
or you're going to be outside. Look at that guy out the window, the
Yeah.
garbage man. You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Not understanding the garbage man was probably making more than the teacher. Not understanding that at the time.
And a union.
Yeah, exactly. So
Union job.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not as necessary, and part of it is, I think it's twofold. One is the enormous expense of college. It is becoming out of reach for so many families and so many kids. And here's the example: you go back 30 years, and you had the ability. You're not going to a great school, but as a student, if mom and dad couldn't help, you had the ability to have a full-time job in the summer and work part-time during the semester, and you could still pay for enough credit hours to get through school within 4 to 6 years.
Who was it that just told us that story about?
Yeah. And you had the ability. Now you can't. That is not a possibility. There is not a summer job that is reasonable for a kid of that age to get, that they can amass enough money where they can still even try to work part-time and get through a semester. You could do that and go to CSU. Now you can't. CSU's 30 grand a semester type of thing. So that you can't. You're not going to be able to earn that amount of money over the course of a summer and then be able to work part-time. And that's part of the issue, is that we've priced it out of reach for the kids that in many ways it is that key to get ahead. Those kids that need that extra step up, the kids that can afford to take unpaid internships when mom and dad are writing the checks, they're going to be fine. But that's part of the issue. The other one is that there is a twist, in my opinion, inside of the working world where they want a lot of experience, but they don't want to pay for a lot of experience. They want to have somebody in the working world that walks through that door with 5, 6, 7 years experience, but we want to pay you as if you're a college grad. And that's part of the issue as well. And people were shocked the other day when it came out that the average salary people are looking for, if they were going to change jobs right now, they're looking for something that's about 75 grand a year. And they went, oh my God, these people seem so self-entitled. Not necessarily. That some of it is the structure inside of the working world and the amount of experience and things and the requirements that you want. And that gets a little bit ridiculous. And thankfully, though, the trades are really doing well. Yeah.
From the wall, I wonder what the student loan interest rates are now, given all the Fed increases. Got to be impossible to go unless you're rich.
It is tough. We have a couple of Spencer's got a couple of student loans, and I'll have to ask him. I did not. I helped with the paperwork, but again, at that point, you can't even worry about the interest rates. And that's the thing that sucks, is because you need to get this interest, this student loan, in order to get the kid to school. And so what the interest rate becomes, in all honesty, and I hate to say it, becomes negligible. It becomes one of the last things you're worried about, because one, it's deferred payments, but two, it has to be done. It's like you're dealing with the mob to a certain extent. They're like, you need the money. We know you need the money, and you're going to deal with this interest rate whether you like it or not, sucker.
So if I never took algebra 2.
Yeah. Yeah. In some ways, some of my teachers thought I didn't either. Yeah.
Was I doomed? Wait a minute, from the wall again. I am learning more and more. This is a very good one. Artificial intelligence will make many mid-level white-collar jobs obsolete. College will be less relevant, and trade schools will be more in demand. That's very smart.
I think the trade schools, I disagree on the premise right now of current AI. I disagree with that, but I think the texter is absolutely right that the trade schools are going to be more and more important, but some of what we think of the trades are going to be different. If I was going to tell somebody right now, I said, go do welding, learn auto mechanics, learn things like, go to HVAC, learn electrical, learn basic construction, and those would be talented. The other one is, if that's not your gig, go learn to be a computer systems analyst. Learn to be someone that is in the IT department, because you need that. Yeah, those are the people that are going to be around. Those are the people who are going to be making the money. Learn to code. Learn the idea of, can you program in SQL? If you have that ability, that's what I think the new trade is going to be. Is it's going to be the computer side of things.
And where I grew up, there was 2 trade schools. One was called Conley Trade, and a kid I grew up with that taught bricklaying there, just retired from teaching block laying, bricklaying at Conley Trade. And the other one was the ever infamous Allegheny Vocational High School.
Oh, I like that.
And Uncle Moose went to Allegheny, and they called it Allegheny Vo. That's what we knew it in the neighborhood. It was a tough school. You had to be.
Yeah, I bet.
That's usually kids that got kicked out of other schools 3 or 4 times and ended up at Allegheny Vo. And the song that they sang at Allegheny Vo was Allegheny Vo, the more you go, the less you know. True story.
That is fantastic.
That was Allegheny Vocational High School and Conley Trade. And Sam, my friend Sam, we still taught brick and block laying at Conley Trade. And those kids went on to union gigs, and they were making 15, 18, 20 bucks an hour laying brick.
Yeah. I know the kid. There's a kid across the street from us that was not a school kid. Wasn't at all. And he's a year older than my oldest, Max. So he's in his early 20s. And I still remember this kid when he was 5, watching his mom chase him running down the street in his underwear because he did not want to go take a bath. And he hated school. Yeah. He's now in the HVAC industry.
Oh, yeah.
Doing very well. Yeah. And the measure that I'm talking about very well. And he has a new pickup truck. He bought it 3 years ago.
Billy.
Paid cash.
One of the guys I ride.
The pickup.
One of the guys I ride motorcycles with, his nephew ended up working for Lexus.
Ooh.
Lexus sent him to school. This kid's making like tonnage.
Yeah.
And my friend's son is going to follow him in. Let me read a bunch more coming in. Mr. Boyles, I'm in the trades, electrician. We are struggling to find people. We can't get people with any kind of work ethic. 303-696-1971. It is back to school. Did you hate school? And by self-admission, yes, I hated school. Why? And I thought a lot about this. And the other one is, did you like school and why? And are these the kinds of things that you want? So 303-696-1971. Billy Thorpe and Peter Boyles coming up. Tom Muller and Jeff and Kenny. And we had a goodbye for Tommy yesterday, and just radio stories started. And then Crystal Baldwin, of course, her husband, Dave, was the reason why MC1 Honor Run began, and she'll be with us on the show. Then I'm back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So there you are. 303-696-1971. A lot of wall action, but I want to hear from you. It's the 1st of September.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Morning, everybody. 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station. I'm Peter Boyles. The first day of September, Labor Day weekend begins. It's called Labor Day, the unofficial end of summer. And we talked about school. Read this one and we'll go to the phones. I loved school, but I was also intolerably little try hard. We'll go here. We'll begin here. This is Peggy. Hey, Peggy, good morning. You're on a radio show. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I liked school. I think about sixth grade, my parents put me into what would be equivalent to a charter school in the middle of the year, like October. And I went from, A's and B's to C's and D's and F's real fast. And it was hard. It was a hard school. And went there for about 3 years, and then high school went back into the regular, rejoined my previous classmates and neighbor schools, and I was suddenly one of the smarter ones in school. I could diagram a sentence and do math and write an essay, and I liked school.
What did you do when you graduated?
So I fell into one of those categories where, I had a lot of pressure on me to go to college and to be the first woman in my family to get a college degree. And it was a struggle. Financially, it took me 6 years because I would go to college and then I would quit and work. And then I'd go to college, quit, and work. And I got a degree from CU Boulder in Spanish for business, which is like taking all your business courses in English and then taking all your business courses in Spanish. And I used that a little bit. There's a couple of degrees, times when, couple of jobs where you get paid more if you have a college degree. So
yeah, I mean, it's being questioned now. I was doing a lot of reading, trying to, gear up for today. And the idea of having a college education isn't as near as important or even perhaps culturally important. I remember, nobody had a college education with where I grew up. I mean, the best of my knowledge, no one did.
Right. I think for me, maybe the career fields that I've gone after, numbers and stuff, the degree has not helped me.
But you did it. It's an earmark. Yeah. It's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah. That somebody looks and.
Yeah, I told my kids all the time, I was like, look, you don't have to go to college. You don't. But if you want to go to trade school, I'll be more than happy to pay for that.
Very good call. Great call. I'm going to jump. Yeah. Here we go. We go to Diane. It's Friday morning. Diane, you're on a radio show. Peter Boyles for George Brauchler. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, when you started off the program, you were reciting Gunga Din.
Yes.
And I'll never forget. My dad used to read out loud to us poetry when we were kids, and he loved that poem. And so I took it upon myself when I was about 8 to learn the poem. And so one night they were having a party, and my dad was a drunken Irish too, and he had a lot of friends who used to come over, have parties.
Sure. And
so they were all there. So I go out in the middle of the party and start reciting Gunga Din, and I still remember it today, and I'll recite it to you. Well, I can't forget the night when I dropped behind the fight with a bullet where me belt plate should have been. I was choking mad with thirst, and the man that spied me first was our good old grinning, grunting Gunga Din. Well, he lifted up my head, and he plugged me where I bled, and he gave me half a pint of water green. It was dirty and it stunk, but of all the drinks I've drunk, I'm grateful to the one from Gunga Din.
Let me do this to you. I want you back on. I'm going to take it. We got to hit the wall, and I got some guests, and I want you back. I'm going to put you on hold. You'll give a phone number to Kenny. We come back to Kenny, to Billy. We come back with Tommy, Jeff, and Kenny. Crystal Baldwin and That Woman's Call. 710 KNUS. Stay here. I'm Peter Boyles for Brauchler. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 on a Saturday morning show. Stay here, 710 KNUS. Good morning, everybody. It's a Friday. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler, and of course, back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for our Saturday show. It's the first morning of September, and Labor Day is called the unofficial end of summer because it marks the end of what they call the cultural summer season. And we've been talking about going back to school in the first hour, but there was a really cool event here yesterday at 710 KNUS. And Tommy Muller, who he and I worked together for the longest time, Tommy's going into semi-retirement, not into retirement. Let me press the magic button so you come on. So there was this lunch that was a magnificent lunch. And thanks to Brian for that, Brian Taylor. In the door comes Jeffrey. Now, how long have you known Jeff? First of all,
I lose track. I for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Longer than Jeff Hildebrand is with us. He can't get up and get in here in time. So Hildebrand's at home at the palatial Hildebrand estate.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
You know, we're all here. And thank you. And excuse me, go ahead.
I've known for years you're not all there.
We haven't been all there since we were here. And last but not least, and anybody that's kicked around Denver radio and worked on this job, worked with Kenny Danon. And he was dubbed by Dave Logan the Wizard because he will get you out of any jam. Kenny's on the line. We rode home together in the truck and telling each other stories. Hey, Kenny, man, thanks for getting up and doing the show, too. Good morning.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Now,
the older we get, the less sleep we get.
You know, I think that's true.
It is true. Yeah.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
So we're talking, Jeff, do you consider yourself retired now at this point?
No, but Brian considers me retired.
Now, you're still really. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me correct Tom. It's my one and only chance to do that. Tom, we have known each other for over 10 years.
Really? No kidding.
Because I worked there for 10 years.
Okay.
And you were semi-retired back then.
One of my father's great lines about guys that my sister would date, he would say, "What kind of work are they out of?"
That's good.
So, Jeffrey, when did you get into radio?
It was back in it was in 1969.
Wow.
I was in the Army stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado, down in the Springs, and I worked midnight till 2 a.m. at a radio station down there while I was in the Army.
What did you jock?
Oh yeah, I was the disc jockey, and there were actually people awake that called in.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they would wake me up as I was working.
What was the format? What was the music?
MOR.
Okay, middle of the road.
Road.
Yeah. I was an MOR jock for a while. Tommy, you were.
Yeah. I was. It was kind of MOR / chicken rock.
Explain chicken rock to the people.
It was country, but it was chicken country. It was
one
light
hard
country. It was Ray Conniff.
An example, yes,
yeah, right.
Yes,
country songs. Kind of when Ray Charles sang
country,
the country.
Yeah,
it was kind of smooth country and MOR.
Kenny, you worked at Cat Radio. I worked at Cat Radio's first place I ever went on the air. Kenny, what were you doing at Cat?
Oh, the job that I had, the first job ever in radio was hosting the oh gosh, I can't think of it's like the Grand Ole Opry, only it's classical music.
Montevante does the Beatles. those records, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you went from there. Actually, you were the smart one. You went to the engineering side. You worked with Bob and Brian and all those guys on the job, but when you got to KOA and Dave Logan dubbed you the Wizard, you traveled with the Broncos, you traveled with everybody, and you were always able to get that puppy on the air when and so you took maybe a smarter approach to this business. How many years did you travel with the Broncos?
Oh gosh, 30. Well, no, wait a minute. 25.
Wow.
But I started out as a studio engineer.
On that end of it, yeah.
Yeah, getting the broadcast on the air was the main road to go there.
Were you on Lincoln Street with us, or was
yes.
that was the Gray Studio. This is when we worked in, sure.
Yeah.
And
that's where I started. I was actually, not only did I do the Broncos, but I was the studio engineer for a lot of the talk shows, including Alan Berg.
Yeah, I know that. I knew that. And that was when there was it wasn't, well, I guess you could have called it a board op, but it really wasn't a board op. It was a different kind of a setup. And you were there, Duke King. Wow, there's a name.
Yeah,
there's a name. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
he moved down to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I remember Duke, and I mean, just always the best guys were working on that job. Jeffrey, where did you go when you left? When you left Colorado Springs?
I went back to Kansas City. Took another job for a little while, and then started in little town radio outside of east of Kansas City. And then I bounced around. I went to Oklahoma City, worked there for a while, and they transferred me to Wichita, Kansas. And I worked there for several years, and then went to Cincinnati and worked there. And then, it's been uphill from Cincinnati all the way to Denver.
When you did, what were the formats, the formatics you worked?
Oh, all kinds, rock, country.
Mm-hmm.
In Wichita, I was a country DJ, and we had, old style country, which some people say is real country. And we were just beginning the mod country, is what we called it back then, which is the kind of country rock that we hear today. So we had an FM station that did the country rock, and I worked both of them actually. But it was exciting times back there. This little radio station that I worked at in Wichita was very public audience aware, and they would have like this weekend. So people didn't have to drive somewhere to do something for a long weekend. They would put on a rodeo, and all of the jocks and people who worked at the station would actually be involved in the rodeo. And I was remembering this morning, my first effort at that was I was a horse. Actually, they had a steer wrestling competition for kids out of the audience. And instead of a big steer, they got a calf. And they put a rope on it, and they gave me the end of the rope and said, "Here, you hold it." Well, a little calf is not a little thing.
No.
That thing took off, and it's dragging me around the arena while kids are trying to stop it. Yeah. Anyway, that was one of my big experiences there. And I also did the fishing reports.
That's great. I mean, I love that. Everybody had that. Well, to Tommy, what was your on-air name?
Sonny Ray.
Sonny Ray.
Yeah.
And you were a top 40 guy.
No, well, I was a top 40 guy, but not as Sonny Ray. That was the Chicken Rock guy.
So when you
MOR.
when you did top 40, were you Tommy or
Tom?
Tom.
But it started at WILS in Lansing while we were in college as Tom Moeller. When I went to KIST in Santa Barbara, they didn't want two M's together,
Sure.
Tom Moeller.
Right.
So they were originally going to ask for me to be Tommy Tiger.
Yeah,
and
I
said, no, I don't want to be any Tommy Tiger.
Tommy Tiger.
Yeah. Well, now maybe but no, I said no. So they said, okay, you're Tommy Moeller.
Yeah.
So I was Tommy Moeller, rock jock in Santa Barbara.
Jeffrey, did you ever gig under another name?
Yeah, but we can't talk about
that. Well, they used to give it this thing called a professional name.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Lee, who we all knew and worked with and loved, he said that when he was a kid coming into the business, there was some guy, and I don't know which radio station it was in Detroit, and the guy's name was Mike Melody.
Wow.
And they canned Mike Melody, but the radio station owned the name and owned the jingle package.
Mm-hmm.
So the next two guys were named Mike Melody because everybody could talk like this, and they became Mike Melody.
Hey, that's how Steve Kelly became Steve Kelly.
That's absolutely true. The jingle package was Steve Kelly, and the guy gave him a gig, and he became Steve Kelly. No, that's all true. It's like, so now the changes are here. It's Friday, everybody. The first day, it's Labor Day, September the 1st, and these are important guys, Jeff Hildebrand and Kenny Danon, and of course, Tom Meller, who goes on to California. When are you guys leaving? When are you guys leaving?
We have reservations at a RV campground October 30th. So
there you go.
Yeah, late September.
And I drove Kenny home to his palatial estate. And Hildebrand, you never know. You never know. Hildebrand just appears.
Yeah, he does.
He did. Yesterday he walked in, I went, Hildebrand. And the good thing about Jeffrey is Jeffrey used to do the news when you weren't here, and it wasn't even the news. I just sit back and he would tell stories. But he was Burt Reynolds' guy, and he did. It was the Jeffrey? What was it? Was the Western Do It Right so I don't screw it up?
Oh yeah, I was with the Encore Westerns channel, which is Stars Encore.
That's it.
One of their genre channels. And also, I was in charge of the Action Channel, which showed action movies. And Bert was our host for the movies. And we would record his segments at his home down in Florida. He was a real interesting, friendly kind of guy. First, I tell the story. The first day we walked in, had a whole video crew there, and we'd set up. And he walked around, and he actually introduced himself to everybody on the crew, shook their hands, found out a little about them, and was very personable.
Did you find, and I go around the horn with the guys, the bigger the name person, the nicer they were? I don't know, Jeff, you talk about a great name, Burt Reynolds, and you have always publicly, there's a lot of private stories you've told me that we won't do on the air, but Burt Reynolds was a good guy. He was just a good guy. Jeffrey, and to Kenny, you met a lot of big name guys, particularly in sports and stuff like that. Did you find that to be true, that the bigger the name of the guy, the man or woman, the better they were to work with or to be around?
Yep. It was like a fraternity of people that knew people, but yet they remained a friend.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, well, for example, Bob Lee, who, let's remind everybody, he was one of the original voices for the Lone Ranger on radio.
He was a kid. He played the ingenue Lieutenant Sodbuster, but it was really Brace Beamer and those. And those were the guys. And Bob came on after the Korean War. He came on as a radio actor, ACTOR, and he was a wonderful storyteller. Bob, yesterday they did a slide presentation on Tommy, and they hit this one slide, and it's Bob Lee, the old man leaning on a cart machine. I said, well, I've never seen that before.
That was a great remember.
Oh, you have no idea what that was about. But do you find that to have been true? The bigger the name guy?
I did. I knew Dick Clark as an example.
Yeah.
Great guy, nice guy.
Yeah.
He accessible guy.
Yeah.
I also had an experience with a guy who was the one of the stars of a sitcom, lesser name than Dick Clark, and he was a total jerk.
Oh yeah,
absolute
awful.
jerk. Yeah. And I've known guys in sports too, mostly with the Lakers and coaches. I knew Pat Riley very well.
Yeah,
very nice guy.
See,
yeah,
and I think that holds up. And Jeffrey tells great stories about Burt Reynolds and stuff that Burt Reynolds did. Guys, it was really just a special afternoon. We led the show this morning in open lines on school, and I knew I could bounce it off you. I know Danon's answer. I don't even have to ask Danon. Kenny, did you hate school?
Yep.
I knew it because of all. Hey, to Jeffrey, Jeff, did you like or dislike going to school?
I did not dislike going to school. There were certain parts of it that I would just as soon not have gone through. But I was just kind of easygoing, and it was all right. I didn't ever learn anything, but still in all, got me out of the house.
Did you like school?
Endured is too strong a word. I just knew I was supposed to go to school, so I just sort of.
But you had this
accepted
schizophrenic. You'd go to New York with your dad.
That's right.
That's right. Stay on the farm.
Yeah, I grew up on the farm in the Midwest in Michigan. I also went to a private school in New York.
Think about that.
Yeah, and with the Fonz was one of the students, Henry Winkler.
Yeah,
and in fact, radio guy, Murray the K's son went to that school.
Wow.
So I mean, I just knew I was supposed to go to school. I think what I enjoyed was college because I was a radio TV major.
Yeah. And I hated school, so we'll let that go. But I just thought, what? I never got as far as Algebra 2, so I can't tell you that Algebra 2 was important. But
I did learn in my 8th grade that I could make people laugh. And where I was in the 8th grade most studious, well, I was class clown the rest of the years after, and my grades deteriorated.
Danon was a hood.
Hey,
he was.
I was.
He was a hood. Yeah, and it wasn't. Yep. He's not the one that told me he was a hood.
Others.
Guys, Danon. Yeah, he was a hood. But remember they called guys hoods.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. No, we were hoods.
Yeah.
I let this go, but we couldn't have not let it go after yesterday's lunch. You're going to California. Mm-hmm. Kingery's counting his money. He's fine now. And down there watching Hildebrand work, and then having Kenny Danon with me yesterday was like, I told my kids, I said, guess who I drove home? This,
Yeah.
was Kenny Dana, who I'm sure on occasion, Kenny, we drove each other home. I was thinking about that. I think more than once. I better drive. I better drive us out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I love all three of you, and you've made a difference in almost all the luck I've had. So,
well, thanks for saying that, Pete. I appreciate that.
Brother, man, you know how we felt, and I got stories about that. I got actually the straightest guy in this whole bunch is Muller, and down on the bottom are me and Kenny. And Kenny cleaned up his act before I did. So Kenny wins. And then Hildebrand. Jeffrey, so tell folks real quick what you're doing now with your day. That's what I thought.
Going back to bed. What do you mean?
You wake up,
right?
Then you take a nap.
I take a nap. I try to do a little writing, and I volunteer at different things, church-related things, food pantry down in Highlands Ranch, and so I keep kind of busy, and then there's yard work that we got.
You did a poem for Jeff. Excuse me, Jeff did a poem for Tommy yesterday. That was
great.
It was spot on.
Yeah,
it
really
was.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff, for that.
And there was. All right, you guys. It's Friday. You made the whole week. It's not going to get any better than this. I love all three of you very much, Kenny, as always, and we'll talk.
Likewise. Yeah.
And back to the King of Kings, to Hildebrand. You stay out of trouble. And you're like, he's like, Hildebrand was that kid in school that you had to watch out for. You did. Like, he's thinking something. And so, and Jeffrey, thanks for doing the show this morning. I know this is.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'm just a little cog in the wheel. I mean, I keep my head down, so that's the only reason I've been able to stay in this business for so long.
It's a wise move. Okay. And Tom, I don't know, too many years, man.
Yeah,
gigged a lot of years.
I appreciate you, Pete. I really do.
You guys,
so glad that you came and invited us here together.
Wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to hang up on all of you. Thank you very, 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 very much. We found this woman that can do Gunga Din, the poem that I could do in high school and junior high, 9th grade. And I don't know what time it is here. We're looking. It's time. Billy's at break time. We'll come back with her. And I was mentioning, we were talking about school. I hated school. I just despised school. But every once in a while, there'd be a teacher that would be that was Miss or Mrs. Benkowski. And I was always into reading and into history, but I read Kipling, reading Kipling when I'm 13, I guess, or 12. And he wrote these epic poems. And he wrote Gunga Din, which is really about Afghanistan. And I memorized it. She said, if you can memorize that poem, I'll pass you. And you can talk a gin and beer when you're quartered safe out here, is sent to penny fights and altered shot at. But when it comes to slaughter, you'll do your work on water. And you'll lick the blooming boots of them that's got it.
Wow.
This woman calls the show and starts doing Gunga Din. She'll join us after this.
That's good.
I'll miss you, my friend.
Thank you.
I'll miss you.
Thank you.
And I know you're still going to be doing the stuff from California, but won't be like seeing you in the hallway.
Oh, I understand that. And I'll miss you too, but I will be back in the warm weather months.
Like a bird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on, everybody. We return 303-696-1971. I hated school. Why? And Crystal Baldwin will join us. 96 will be the high. We'll bring this woman back up. It was very cool. 710 KNUS, Billy Thorpe, Peter Boyles together again. Good morning, everybody. Do it right on a Friday, the September 1st edition. George is off. I'm Peter Boyles, on the air everywhere, and be back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and then I'm going to take Tuesday afternoon, so it is the best. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Thank you. So I start. By the way, it's going to be 96 for a high today, 95 Saturday and Sunday, 92 degrees, working with the one and only Billy Thorpe. So it's an idea that I've had about school and school starts. This is a great time to talk about it. This is Labor Day, called the unofficial end of summer, because it marks the end of the cultural summer season, and football starts and everything's over and begins anew. So talking about school, and I said, about hating school. I despised school. For me, after fifth grade, school was like the worst. And what did you like about school? And tons of people like school. So this woman knocks me out because I was telling somebody I could recite Gunga Din, and I got a grade for it. And the English teacher, it was either Miss or Mrs. Benkowski, I can't remember. And she said, if you can do that, I'll pass you in this course. And so then you call the show, and you can do Gunga Din. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? what's wrong with you? Huh?
Yeah.
But
well, I thought it was a lot of fun to say Gunga Din, and I was telling you about my parents were having a party, and I come out 8 years old and recite Gunga Din, and my dad's drunken friends were just howling. They loved it.
Well, then there was Robert. There was Robert Frost, and you mentioned all of these people.
Oh,
and
Shakespeare. I read all Shakespeare's plays in high school because Mrs. Frisco from England, educated in England, and so of course she wanted us to know all the British lit.
Sure.
So I did. It was great.
So what did you do with having any of that knowledge? What happened?
Well, I went to college, was an English major. That was so easy because I'd had it all. I'd read all the subjects, all the material that they, thought no one had read. And so that was easy. And I knew composition real well because of Mrs. Frisco. And we just, I think there were only 8 people in our English class. So you couldn't, there was no place to hide. So that was tough.
So as he ends it, now the place where he is gone, where there's always double drill and no canteen.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And he'll be squatting on the coals. He'll be squatting on the coals.
Yeah.
He'll be giving drink to poor damn souls. You go finish it. Finish it.
Well, I shan't forget the night when I dropped behind the fight with a bullet where me belt plate should have been. I was choking mad with thirst, and the man that spied me first was our good old grinning, grunting Gunga Din. Well, he lifted up my head, and he plugged me where I bled, and he gave me half a pint of water green. It was dirty and it stunk, but
you got it.
Dirty and it stunk, but the man, he was dirty and it stunk, but the man, I'm grateful as the man named Gunga Din. Well, it's Dean. There's a beggar with a bullet in his spleen. For God's sake, get the water, Gunga Din. That's it. That's what I know.
There's always when he's gone, when a place where he is gone, where there's always double drill. And no canteen. And he'll be squatting on the coals. He'll be giving drink to poor damn souls. And I'll get a drink in hell from Gunga Din.
From Gunga Din. Yeah, that's right. I love that. I just love that.
Yeah.
Poem.
And I haven't thought of it. I haven't even, tapped into saying it to myself. So last night I'm gigging up on the show, and I'd seen Billy and talked about it. And I said, that was probably the only thing was reading epics. And I read Beowulf, but not that I ever applied it because I hated school. But I could do that. You're a gift.
Yeah. That was fun.
Well, you're great.
Yeah, that was fun.
That you still remember that. Yeah.
Yes, that is amazing, isn't it? But it's one of those things that really impressed you, and I love that poem.
Yeah, and then I've seen the movie, and
I never saw the movie.
See the movie because it's the white Raja time and the Imperial, and they're fighting Afghans or whatever they're doing. But that was, as you know, that Kipling was the white man's burden. He was the voice of the Imperial British.
Right.
And looking back, he wasn't who you think, but he was what he was. We'll meet. I love you. Thank you. Be
Okay,
safe.
thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
It is that magic time. Brian Gray. I get to tell people this. When I was doing Monday through Friday in Alpine Planning, and I became a client of Brian Gray. And he has been now in the semi-retirement stuff. This guy is just the best there is. And so I say good morning on a Friday to Mr. Gray. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. Good to hear your voice again.
Thanks. Hey, did you like school?
I think my son's still sleeping, so I can be honest with you. No, I couldn't stand school.
See? See?
It was a tall task to get through 4 years of college, but we survived.
Yeah. Did you like high school?
High school I liked because it wasn't as strict or strenuous, but college was not a thing for me. That was a struggle for sure. So we got through it.
Yeah, I talked to Kelly Michaels yesterday when I was gearing up the show. And I said, Kelly, he grew up in Michigan. I said, why'd you like to go to school? He said, to see my girlfriend. That was the best answer ever.
At least he was honest.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we talk all the time, so I know how you are. Alpine Planning, you guys, what they did for me is such a payoff today. So what would you like to say?
Hey, jobs report. The number came out last month. We added 187,000 jobs. Strong economy, but a little bit slower growth, and then unemployment rose to 3.8%. But just before I get out of here, we got the Dow up 122 points, Nasdaq's up 23, and the S&P's up 15. So let's use a football analogy. We're in the second half right now, so anybody wants a second opinion on their portfolio, definitely give Alpine Planning Group a call. We'd love to sit down with you.
I still remember the number, 303-843-0918. That's like calling the house. And so remember, Alpine Planning is the comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. They did it for me. And investing is a matter of trust, and everybody there, they are prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918. I need to talk to you this week, so we will do so. Mr. Gray, take care of yourself.
All right, give me a shout next week. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you.
Doctor.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Taking a pause. Morning, everybody. It's the first morning of September 2023. I'm Peter Boyles, on the air everywhere. 710 KNUS, thanks for being here. 96 will be the high, and 95 on Saturday and Sunday, 92. Labor Day, 87 degrees. A bunch of different stuff here on the wall. Initially, the texter sent, Errol Flynn was in Gunga Din. I absolutely loved the movie, then corrects herself. No, I was wrong. It was Cary Grant. That's right. It was Victor McLaughlin, who I just love, and Cary Grant and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. were the three of them, and Sam Jaffe played Gunga Din. And I remember seeing the film, and I never put it together until I started being a little history reader and saying, business being there. It was like the British Army. And it was set in some part of modern India, perhaps Afghanistan, but they were there to take it from them, and they were fighting back. And we're watching this stuff. It's like watching, I got my little Bighorn shirt on this morning, and it's like when we watched Errol Flynn, and they died with their boots on. And Errol Flynn is George Custer, and becoming a little geek about all of that stuff. And we thought of, and I don't know if maybe it was me, but thought of the native people as so wrong, and they were in the way, and Custer, and all these other guys, and they take the land from the Indians. We cheered that on without realizing now, how dealing off the bottom of the deck it was to deal with native people. And I got this, I'm reading very slowly this history of Wyoming. There was this gift book to me, and I get a few pages in a day or every other day. But the United States of America, us, you and me, never hold the line. We're never straight with these guys. And it's just this heartbreak. And what we learned in school, and of course, what we apply in modern life. So as this is the beginning, or it used to traditionally, although my grandson started school before Labor Day, but it was always the day after Labor Day. Oh, God, I hated it. And did you hate school? And it's been a really fun show to do, but it's also kind of enlightening. Did you like school? And I talked to a bunch of people who actually like school. I was gearing up for this and saying, did you like school? Yeah, I liked it. The best one was Kelly Michaels. So my girlfriend. Well, if you'd have had a girlfriend, right? But so tell me what you liked and what you didn't like. And school, I think, is so extremely different now than it could have ever been before. And then we got off into the idea that people no longer need, or in fact, that college is seen as a waste. And we're talking about the kids who went on to technical schools or industrial schools, or went and learned things. And like I said, like the great mystery of life, Algebra 2. But what's happened is kids are going to trade schools. And one of my dear friends, we ride motorcycles together, his nephew ended up working for Lexus, and Lexus has taken him to schools, and he's doing extremely well. And my friend's son now is going to follow him into, I guess, a 2-year program as a mechanic. He's mechanically inclined, and he will then go to work for one of the hopes for Lexus. So why? I mean, except that, like, what percentage of you do you think ever really needed Algebra 2? But I never got Algebra 1, so what was it going to be to do Algebra 2? Our school's out of date. But come back to this one, 303-696-1971. Lines are open. this time of year, lo, those many years ago, school was starting, and many school districts resume classes Labor Day weekend. Labor Day holiday weekend's over, the first day of school, and some begin the week before, but making Labor Day weekend the first 3-day weekend of the school calendar, where others return on the Tuesday, which we traditionally did, following Labor Day, and it goes as it goes. So 303-696-1971. And Labor Day also, boy, it was a big union day. And back to this conversation. No, I was wrong. It was Cary Grant. Of course it was Cary Grant. It was Cary Grant, and it was Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Victor McLaughlin. And Sam Jaffe played Gunga Din. So things are changing. Billy's loading up the calls. 303-696-1971. We go to Louie. Louie on 2. Hey, Louie, thanks, man. Good morning. You're on the show.
Oh, hi. How you doing?
Good, man.
Good. I didn't even realize I was going to get on the show.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's good to hear you back, Peter.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I've been listening to you since I graduated high school in 1972.
You're the one.
I'm the one.
You're
yeah.
the one.
I still have a original recording of the last radio broadcast of Kim Radio. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to you talk about this book that you were that was Western book.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just wanted to comment about that. You know, you're very well versed and very well read, and you know, I'm just curious what you think of this new political book that came out about the history of Biden. I guess we can call it that.
What's the title of the book again?
You know what? I don't have it. I'm in my car right now.
Okay.
But it's
I'm going to put you on hold. Tell Billy. You tell Billy the name of it. Lines are full. We're going to do a drop with Crystal Baldwin about MC1, and then we'll continue through open lines. I'm Peter Boyles for George Brauchler. Hang on. Morning, everybody. It's a Friday, the first morning of September. Labor Day weekend begins 2023. I'm Peter Boyles in for George. Also, I will do our 9 o'clock show tomorrow morning on Saturday and back Tuesday afternoon on the Tubbs Show on Tuesday. 710 KNUS. We've been in and out of just fun lines. Lines were jammed. We took the break talking about school and did liking school, disliking school. But in the meantime, this has been a project that our morning show has been involved in actually since before, because back when it was Emily Keys and Emily's Parade, and it's an honor to have her on the show. There was Sergeant Dave Baldwin of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, and Sergeant Baldwin, whose radio call sign was MC1, was killed in the line of duty after being struck on his motorcycle by a wrong-way driver. This is his widow, and she has become a dear friend. I have immense respect. She rides her own motorcycle. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Crystal Baldwin. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
You know what? This summer and spring, if it was a fish, I'd throw it back.
Yeah, right?
And
you could probably swim.
Oh, and I know you had those fish throwback times yourself. So I just went through a bunch of stuff. And it's like, but here we are on the other side, and we'll be riding motorcycles and having a good time. But
yeah, I can't wait. It's Sunday, September 24th this year.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't wait.
And it goes from, as always, we'll probably get the Angelus on the show tomorrow. I was thinking about who we should put on, but it has to be Frank. But this year's honor run benefits Denver Police Department Sergeant Justin Dodge. He's the young officer who lost his leg at the Denver Nuggets basketball championship celebration. And he's currently recovering from a leg amputation. And committed to to all of this. And I talk to Mark Miller constantly, and we always talk about Dave, but take a second and talk about all of this, because there was something that was the predecessor, and this is why Frank will be a great guest, and it was called Emily's Parade, and it was for Emily Keys. And you guys rode in that. I'll just turn it over to you.
We did. Yeah, no, we did. We actually, yes, we were very much a part of that, and we rode in that ride every year. And as a matter of fact, and the way in which you and Frank both met Dave is that he ended up working that parade and being a part of, helping set that up and negotiate all the logistics for it. So he became very familiar with everyone on the board there that ran Emily's Parade, and it was very near and dear to us. And we both rode in that.
That was one of the, we had some of the old radio hands on this morning. We were talking, saying goodbye to Tommy Muller, but that was a magic moment, because in this tragedy of the murder of Emily Keys, and it really had to do with Chris Olinger, another great radio mind. And so we were sitting on Christine's balcony, and there was Frank, and who had been through so much, and Emily's dad, and I think I'm trying to remember who else was there, and someone had the great line, well, Emily liked parades, and so just kind of like the spontaneous, let's throw the kid a parade, and it started out a motorcycle parade, and then that went for a decade, and then David was killed, and so that. And then this really has to do with Jeff Schrader. I mean, a lot of really good men and women, and they flipped it to the MC1 Foundation. And
yeah, actually, Emily's Parade was still occurring at the time that MC1 Parade, the foundation started, and they were a very significant help to the board and giving them advice and getting them started. I think they even loaned them cones and things.
Yeah.
Since both bike rides happened at that time at the same location, starts at Columbine High School. Yeah. So they were significant in helping, launch and help out with the MC1 Foundation.
And that was, of course, Frank and Jeff Schrader and Mark Miller and a cast of thousands and a cost of
and
millions.
you. Yeah.
Me. But
yeah. And now it's blossomed into a fantastic organization, of course, that helps all kinds of first responders across the state, and they do great work. They not only, have this ride and raise money for one officer, they help multiple first responders, your firefighters, and everyone all year long. So the organization really does way more than just this one ride.
So, for those of you who want to and ride motorcycles with us, the MC1 Honor Run, go to the website, just MC1 Honor Run. All the info kicks up and it ends up and there's a party and it takes place and it goes up and everybody rides motorcycles and they go up there and they hang out and they bang and there's a car show and
they actually changed the name. So, it used to be with the ending spot it used to be Summit, and now it's called Main Event.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that, you can come, you can bring your families, even if you don't ride a bike, you can still participate. They have a bowling alley, laser tag, arcades. And if you don't ride, you can also donate online at mc1foundation.com and support the organization and the officer this year. And if you do ride, you can go there now to mc1foundation.com and you can register your bike. If you're going to ride, you can do it all ahead of time. They open at 8. You can register there as well. And then the ride starts at 10.
I'm picking my motorcycle, getting a sound system on it right now, and I'm picking it up. And I'm going to be ready to be rocking and talking. Because of some physical things I had, and I never thought I'd do it, I bought a trike. And God, I just love it. It's just such difference. And so it's the adult big wheel. So I will be.
Hey, you're still out there. You're still doing it, and that's the fun part.
Absolutely. And it's like, yeah, we were talking, Gary and I were talking about skiing. I said, we're not going to be tearing the blacks up this year, but we'll do it. We'll do a ton of greens and blues. And so I think
there you go.
Yeah, you do it. So, but Dave was just a good man. And
he was, and I totally can't believe this is the 10th anniversary for the ride. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Dave's death. And of course it's a big deal for all of us. And we're hoping to have this be a huge celebration for the MC1 Foundation. This is called the MC1 Honor Run. MC1 was Dave's call sign, Motorcycle One. And so he was a big kid and he loved having a good time. He loved working for Emily's Parade. So he would have loved this ride for sure.
We also have the Grand Order of the Motorcycle Boots now. So so I got a pair. DeAngelis has a pair. I think they gave Schrader a pair. They gave me a pair.
I hope so. He was their sheriff.
Yeah, and Frank, because Frank's not a big guy. He puts those boots on; they come over his knees. We'll get him on the show tomorrow. We'll beat him up tomorrow. But
terrific. Looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, without DeAngelis, it doesn't go anywhere. I love you. We'll talk, I'm sure, before, but again, please go to the web. It's MC1 Foundation. Any information you need, sign up. If you ride a motorcycle, would love to see you. Thank you. I'll see you soon.
You.
Thanks, Crystal.
Okay, Peter.
Be safe.
You have a great day.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Goodbye. We'll go back to the phones. School. What do you think? And I love your first name, Charisse. Charisse, you're on a radio show. It's 14 after 8. Good morning.
Well, it's nice to talk with you, Peter.
Thank you.
What I liked about high school was the fact that I took a variety of classes that were very interesting to me. So I had that ability to take those electives. So I took like photography. I took modern dance, which I enjoyed. I took French. I also enjoyed American history and social studies. In fact, one of my favorite teachers was a social studies teacher named Mr. Dawson. And he was big on Russian history. So we had to do as our big project, a Russian Revolution timeline. And of course, back then, we didn't have computers and all that. So we're in the library quite a bit doing research. And we had to come up with a timeline that was 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, all set out on the floor. We had to do this timeline across the floor. I mean, I bet there was at least 17 sheets.
Wow.
And we had to tape them together. And each of us had to do our own project. So it's not like you could work with a partner.
How much of it do you remember?
And
how much of it do you remember?
probably about half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saved it. I think I've got it in a cedar chest in my basement. So
Yeah.
I probably need to get it out sometime and
No,
look at it.
I believe. So what did you do when you graduated from high school?
I went to work right away. I actually graduated early.
Yeah.
I got out a semester early. And I went to work for a Holiday Inn in their catering department as a secretary. Just wanted to make money, wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. It took me a few years before I went back to college.
You know, I really, I mean, I'm not making this up. I really dislike school. And it started for me after 5th grade. And then, but college was different. I mean, it was like, wow. But it was, infinitely many years later. But I didn't think, school like algebra, I might say algebra 2. I've been making fun of algebra 2, but there were people that could go and do that and laced it up. I just wasn't one of them. So
I couldn't do algebra. No, algebra was not my deal in high school.
It's all
but
true.
when I got to college, I had to take it. So I was scared to death. I'm like, I'm just going to flunk this. And they ended up telling me that we have this new program you can do as a self-paced algebra course on, computer. And I ended up acing it.
See, I'm proud of you. Thank you. Thank you.
It killed me, but I did
But
it.
I got him. Thank you. This text, Peter, which trike did you get? It's called an RG3. And it's all blacked out, and it was the unicorn of finding trikes, and Harley Davidson began, and I got it from Mile High out in Parker with Robbie and Rich and everybody, and they really hunted to find the bike, and it's an RG3, and now it's with PDA, and I'm getting it coated so the rocks won't beat on it, but it's an RG3, blacked out RG3. And I just think it's like it was the white whale. Hey, Sarah, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
Good. I just wanted to call in and tell you about our experience with our 2 teenage boys and high school and trade school. My older son is extraordinarily mechanically inclined and has been for 3 or 4 years. And we've had to put him in several different high schools to help facilitate that. He's brilliant in English and math and all that stuff, but that wasn't what fills his soul. So we ended up switching him over to Cherry Creek High School, which has a feeder high school called the Cherry Creek Innovation Campus. And he only has to take 3 classes at Cherry Creek High School and then spends every other afternoon learning a trade. So 2 years in CNC machining, and he's got a certification in that now, and he's just started in his automotive program this year. The difference between these 2 schools is Cherry Creek High School will not provide any information for any trade schools in the surrounding area and surrounding states.
Yeah.
Only 4-year degree.
Yeah.
I
think that's so wrong, and I don't know individual cases, but the people, more and more of my friends' kids and grandkids are going to what we used to call trade schools.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Well,
it's great return on your investment because you're talking a 2-year span of your life, maybe $30,000.
Oh yeah.
And any one of these kids will come out with no less than 4 job offers.
Sure. I mean, if like stuff that if you can do it, which I can't, if you can do it, I mean, one of the dear friend of mine, we ride together. His nephew went to work, and he ended up working with Lexus, and then Lexus is further educating him. And so Joe's son is now going to follow in. You go to ACC for a couple of years. I mean, it's just the whole thing just makes total sense.
Yeah.
And
there's a draw for it. I mean, if you follow Mike Rowe at all, he's created quite an empire of transitioning kids to trade schools and partnering them with different companies all over the country.
You know, the European model was always, you know, that was where you took a test, and if you were on this side of the line, and you did things, they got, you know, like, because frankly, and I don't want it to sound any other way, I wasted, not, you know, all those years. I mean, I didn't do anything. I just kind of flopped around. We boxed, but I don't know, learned to smoke cigarettes. I
say you didn't learn anything.
Yeah, and I read, but I always read what I wanted to read. I never wanted to read what they wanted, you know, like read this. No, I decided I'd rather read this, but
I don't think you would want to read what they make them read now.
I don't know. I mean, I went back and read years later A Tale of Two Cities. Now, if you know how teenage boys think, the title of that book immediately changed. Having said that, I went and read it, and it's really, I mean, it's Dickens, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful book. Mm-hmm. Now, I just automatically rejected it because, you know, the power structure said, read this book. Nah, I'll read something else. But I love your call. Thank you so much, man. It's like a wonderful morning. We go to Charlie. Charlie, you're on a radio show. Peter Boyles and the one and only Billy Thorpe at the con. Hey, Charlie, good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Man.
Good to hear your voice this morning.
Thank you.
I've been listening for years. I liked you when you were on Inside Out.
You know, that was a hoot. We had 17 years of hosting that show. That was like, wow.
Yeah, that was good. That was the only time it was any good.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about education. I happen to be one of the people that loved it. I loved it from the first grade on to college, but I didn't like college. I was eager to get out of there.
Huh.
But I had other things I wanted to do. And since I was at that age, I was ready to get out and go to work and chase the American dream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I went to school in Chinook, Montana.
Where's Chinook?
Chinook is about 40 miles south of the Canadian border, right in the middle of the state. It's north and west of your sojourn up there with the Cowboys.
Mouse City.
Yeah. So Chinook is up on the Milk River.
There you go.
So anyway, I loved school. I couldn't wait. I hated to see it get out in the spring, and I loved it to start in the fall.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think is true is that the reason Labor Day and everything that comes with it is because agrarian America, they needed their children home to work on the farm all summer long.
You're absolutely right. That the school years there was set. We got out of school early in May, so we could help with the farm. I didn't,
sure.
And then we went back to school right after Labor Day.
Yep. And you know, when was harvest? So harvest would be starting pretty soon, would it not?
Well, harvest was pretty much over by the 1st of September, because that was the Labor Day weekend, and that was usually when the county fair was held.
And that's right. And well, I know the counties were held then, but so, and I was mentioning as a kid in the mill, and then even before that, Labor Day was, there were parades on Allegheny River Boulevard, and you know, and the unions, because the unions would march, and we would line up both sides of the street, and Knights of Columbus would march, and then the VFW would march, but the unions would march, and then much later I would go to these Labor Day parties, and they would put down. I remember it so well. I was telling my kids about it. They'd put down sawhorses, and then they would lay doors over the sawhorses. There were doors that they would just go to the lumber yard and didn't have any holes cut in them or hinges, or just lay them down, and they made bars out of them. And that was the bar. And then Iron City trucks had come, the beer trucks had come, and the beer trucks would park behind the makeshift bars. And one of the things they made, I mentioned this in the first hour, they have these great big pots, and they would have like sausages, kielbasa or something, Italians, I think it was kielbasa, and sauerkraut. And they make these big sandwiches for guys, and guys brought their families. And I said earlier, there oftentimes scores would get settled. Somebody have the jaws for something that happened, and now they're drinking that Texas loudmouth, and they're going to tell this guy what they think. And, like when you're 18 years old, you're watching that one. Whoa.
But you're growing up time was in Pittsburgh, and that's a long way from Chinook, Montana. Ours was all, farmers and ranchers, and then the business people that supported those main activities. So, I started school in 1940.
Wow.
So it was a little bit earlier than you. And times changed from the time that 1952 when I got out of high school.
Man.
But I just wanted to mention, I still use algebra and geometry and trig in my daily life periodically. And I like to, I used to like to read, but in high school, in those days, they had classic comics.
Oh, sure. You could always steal a book report out of that.
Well, I got most of my literature reading out of classic comics.
Oh, yeah. As soon as they assigned The Tale of Two Cities, which, of course, we renamed that immediately. You went down and everybody stole... Everybody stole the mag. I got to jump. I love the call. Thank you. We're going to do a turnaround here, sir? All right. Billy Thorpe's got the con. I'm Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS. Back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And then I'm going to do the afternoon show on Tuesday for Stefan. Talking about school. And it's the return to school. And the beginnings of all of this. Plus, it's Labor Day, the end of summer, the unofficial. And end of summer. Here comes summer. 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. We have one line open. Billy Thorpe's got the con. Here we go.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you...
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Lines are full. 710 KNUS. Friday morning, September 1. I'm Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. School. We're back in school. I do tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. We do the regular Saturday morning show, and I'm back on Tuesday afternoon and do it again. Labor Day, called the unofficial end of summer. Does it feel it's coming to be the end of the summer? Because it marks the end of the cultural summer season. And then back to school and your thoughts about school. We go to Briscoe on line 1. I love your name, man. Briscoe, you're on the show. Good morning.
Hey, Pete.
Hey,
Good
Bubba.
to talk to you. As always, I remind you, we met way back right after the Aurora Theater shooting.
Okay.
You bought me lunch. We sat down and had lunch.
You know what? I owe you a phone
you did
call.
too.
I owe you
Yeah,
a phone call. Yes, I do.
It's all good. It's all good. I started, so I always take notes before I call you to stay on track. You know, first thing I have is school sucks, and I spell it S-U-X.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really believe that, but you know, I'm 52. When I went to school, I was horrible at it. I was a C student. I was smart enough never to fail, so I never had to go to summer school, but I was not good at school. Now, I liked shop class and PE class. I did good at those things, but regular school, it was a grind. It was tough. And, you know, to me, I think boys, and this probably applies to females as well, but boys need an outlet of physical exercise, like constantly. And, you know, I was very thankful. Like I had BMX bikes that I rode as a kid, and that switched over in junior high to skateboarding. And I did that clear into adulthood, and really, I still skateboard a little. And I would love to see them integrate more physical exercise with the learning. You know, sitting in a math class I don't know if there's anything more boring, especially it's in the afternoon when it's hot.
Ooh,
you know?
after lunch.
Yeah, but if you learn about it,
Yeah.
like, you know, I was very fortunate. When I got out of high school, I was already working at what you'd call a neighborhood garage at North Denver. Garoni was their name. Garoni's off-highway garage. So I was learning to work on cars. And quickly, I got on a NASCAR race team.
Wow.
Because Rick Corelli, he's out of Colorado as well. He hooked up with a guy named Marshall Chesron, which I don't have anything
Sure.
good to say
Of
about
course. Yeah.
him. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
He had a race team. Rick was a driver. The team was built around Rick. So I went and worked at one of the dealerships, and I went through what's called the General Motors, and they may still have this program, called the ASEP program, Automotive Service Education Program. And you mentioned ACC doing things like that. That's where they used to run it out of, is Arapahoe Community College. I think it may be at a different location now, like off of I-70. I think there's a Lincoln Auto Tech Center or something like that. They might do it. Anyway, thank goodness, like I had a job where I was going to school, but then they make you apply it too. Like you only go to college every other month, because on those months you're not in college, you're at the dealership and you're working and you're learning. And, you know, you have to find a sponsorship for that. Go ahead.
There's a lot of European systems. The Germans were one that when you went to school for Mercedes or BMW, then I think you started, you know, quite young. And and a friend of mine just bought a new Beamer. And it's what an incredible car. I mean, it's just an amazing car. And but they went through but they worked for life. You know, the whole idea of the Japanese, for instance, they invented something called XYZ theory, and they build some pretty smoking motorcycles.
Oh my gosh!
And cars, and you know, but they take their kids when they're young, and they go to work for Suzuki, or they go to work for Kawasaki, or they go to work for Honda, or they go to work for BMW, they go to work for Mercedes, and but they also know that they're not going to get fired, they're not going to get laid off, they're not going to get screwed over. They're going to build,
and that helps with the confidence early on.
Of course.
Sorry to interrupt.
You know, the idea that, and it was called Z theory, and I read it quite a bit, and you know, I'm the I don't know, the head of I'm the chairman of the board of Honda. Well, there's a bad time coming. So instead of doing what, for instance, I've watched done in radio, and in radio, there's a theory that you can read, and it's called shrink to profit. And what you do is you fire, like I watched it happen over at Brand X. Here's a single mom with a couple of kids who's been working, booking shows. She gets fired. Yep. But that would have never happened in Japan because everybody would have taken the cut from the chairman of the board all the way down to the guy pushing a broom. And it was a percentage cut. In other words, like the chairman of the board, his cut was going to be huge, but he got paid a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah, he was living very well.
And so they, that when we talk about, singing the corporate song and waving the flags, and they had vacation places where if you worked for Honda, you went on vacation, you went to that place and you were taken care of. And this country, marking Labor Day and unions, United States of America has the absolute bloodiest history of a small d democratic state in Western Europe, the United States of America. We, as a country, I've talked about it many times. The Kaiser had much better places for, the whole idea of a kindergarten, those kinds of things. They come from Kaiser Bill, and we had Woodrow Wilson. Think about it. But the Japanese, that Z theory, and the Germans, I think, do it with BMW, and they do it with Mercedes. Do they build a better car? They're expensive.
Yeah. And so on the XYZ, how I've heard it put, this is basic Tony Robbins motivational.
Sure. Yeah.
He brings up Honda and Japan. After World War II, they brought in a statistician from America to teach them how to do things, and they developed what's called Kaizen. And maybe Kaizen is older than this, but it's constant, never-ending improvement.
Oh yeah,
and some people in America, they call it they call it constant, never-ending improvement. Here, over there, Kaizen, I think it's in their culture, and it's been there for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so they build quality, and they take pride in their stuff. And they're not going to lay people off at a heartbeat.
The book that I don't want to finish, but I'm almost done with, is that book about the kamikazes and when the blossoms flew. And I recommend it to people. Go read this book. And this one moment, I mentioned it on the radio show the other day, when the United States is attacked on 9/11, the Japanese look at one another and say, now they know. Now they know what it felt like. Now they know this. And he seeks out these kamikaze. They didn't say, but they called them divine eagles. They called them Hayabusas. they didn't call them they didn't call them kamikazes, but they
right.
The American GIs called them the suiciders.
Yes.
And they were 14-year-old kids, and some of them they crashed, or they were running 88 octane gasoline. They were just in trouble. And so there were more than a couple hundred of these guys that actually survived the war. And he goes and finds them and talks to them and who they were and what that was about. It's a tremendous. I mean, it's very tearful that. And I'm in a part just at the end now where there was a camp, and there were the women, the young girls who did everything they could to make their lives so wonderful because they were going to die the next day.
Oh man.
And no, I mean, and it's like, I know know enough about martial arts that that whole thinking that and
the cultural.
That was it. And it was like, I've seen some of those videos of the Palestinian kids who are quote going on a, they say going on a mission, and they leave videos behind of them talking to the the boys literally who are their age about strapping on bombs and these guys are they're and you can't. I was telling somebody about this book, and you don't know what to do with it because I was raised in such a tradition to hate them, and now I'm in the book where Okinawa, they've lost Okinawa, and they know that the mainland's coming. It's the attack on the main. They know nothing at all about the bombs and what's coming. In fact, I read something the other day that Harry Truman was president of the United States for 2 weeks before
when it happened.
No, before they told him about the bomb.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
he was president, Briscoe. He was president for 2 weeks after FDR died before they said, "Oh, by the way, Harry, come on the other room. Want to tell you something." He didn't know. He had no idea.
Yeah.
But it's like
the joint chiefs of staff have extreme power, and they can dictate what road a president takes for sure.
They didn't tell 2 weeks before they let him know. But this book is when the blossoms flew, because there were the cherry blossoms, and here are all these young 14, 13, 12-year-old Japanese girls, and they're singing to them, and there's and they're making their pillows for them, and they're doing things for them, and people are sending them headbanders to wear that are stitched in people's blood. And one guy can't go, his airplane won't start, but he wants to get in to the airplane with the other guy to go and die.
Yep.
And powerful, and they're not drunk. I mean, I remember reading when I'm a kid, they were drunk when they took off. No, they weren't.
Well, I mean, do they talk at all about meth use in this book? Because I heard the Third Reich was using meth on.
Oh, sure. Well, they invented it.
And
they invented it.
The kamikazes were as well.
No, I don't.
You've probably spoken about with the World War II and the Japanese. Prior to World War II, they thought of their culture or their leader as a god.
Of course.
So it falls in line that they would be so extreme in what they're willing to go and do.
There was
an airplane.
There was Hiro,
and crash into.
There was Hirohito, and then there was everybody else. But but no, the Germans had meth, and that's why an invasion of Poland, the first 3 days, it's and then the meth starts to burn down. They invented.
Oh, okay, 3 days straight.
They're just. I mean, then they go to the desert on it, and they that's stuff. Remember STP? You're a geek.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's theirs.
I've been at many racetrack with the King.
That's theirs.
I'm friends with a couple of his relatives, brothers, kids, or some funny people.
That was
some
theirs.
Good people.
That was theirs. I mean, they
putting
oxygen on motors, nitrous and stuff. That's theirs. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant. I mean, and the Japanese are more.
It's a deeper culture, and they're closer. It's that island.
And they think it too.
I mean, think how they reacted and how they behaved after the nuclear disaster, the nuclear plant that overheated.
Yeah.
They don't run; they help.
No.
And older people were volunteering because they're like, "Hey, I'm at the end of my life. I will go and do the work.
I'll go and do it."
I think it has to do with that island. I mean, I was amazed when I found out Russia and Japan fought in the early
1917. They beat them. They beat them.
Yeah.
Wow, they beat
that
them.
Tiny island won. That
they beat them.
Blows my mind. I mean,
shocked the world.
Jiu-jitsu and leverage. There's a great example of leverage.
No, they shocked the world because they beat white people.
Oh, yeah.
That was the shock, that yellow men beat white people, the Russians. Got a break. Love you. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, love you.
All
Bye.
right. We're turning around. Billy Thorpe and Peter Boyles. I'm taking the Brauchler show. George will be back. I got tomorrow morning at 9. This is 710 KNUS on Labor Day weekend. Here we go. Friday morning, September 1, 2023. Labor Day weekend begins. I'm Peter Boyles, on the air everywhere. Go back to the phones. First time we have two lines open. This is Steve. Hey, Steve, you're on a radio show, man. I almost said good afternoon. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete.
Man.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm out here at the Stack and Pack at Vandermeer for our big final race of the summer season. But I was listening to you, and I want to go back to the trade school.
Okay.
Stuff.
All right.
I graduated high school in 1969, went to college for 2 years. I did not like college. And I had a chance. I was living in an apartment with some high school buddies, and one of them's an electrician apprentice, and says, "Hey, my boss is looking for help. Do you want to be an electrician?" And I said, "I don't know, but I'll give it a shot." I've been doing it since 1971. The trades are wonderful for people that want to make money and like working with their hands. It's really good.
You know, there is, and I think it's right now it's more evident perhaps than ever before, that guys like you, and I probably should have been me, that went and learned. Is that the break music, Billy? Let me put you on hold, bring you out of the box on the other side. We're doing a turnaround right now. It is Labor Day weekend coming. I'm Peter Boyles. We're back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. In for George Brauchler. I'm Peter Boyles. Hang on. Peter Boyles for George Brauchler. He'll be back, 710 KNUS. It's a Friday morning. It is also the beginning of the Labor Day weekend. It's September 1, 2023. It's Friday. 96 will be the high today, 95 on Saturday, 92 on Sunday. Started out, it's really been interesting, as I always say about talk radio. If you leave it alone, no man is its master. It sort of takes off and runs in its own direction. And I thought about this because everybody's going back to school, right? The traditional back to school day is after Labor Day, and asking people, did you hate school? And I did. And legitimately hated school. And did you like school? Legitimately, why? And so it's changed in all kinds of different things. And this guy's calling from Vandermeer Speedway. And the new column that I wrote that's in the Chronicle that's on our website is about John Vandermeer and the Vandermeer Speedway and automobiles. But so you were telling a story about yourself, Steve. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just listening to that. I'm up here. We are stacked. There are, with Vandermeer shutting down, the car count has probably almost doubled.
Oh yeah.
Everyone trying to get here for the last chance. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty amazing.
Yep.
I was going to talk about the school part. I did just enough to get through high school. I was not good at algebra. Geometry was easy. I could see it. It was easy, but algebra was always my downfall until later after high school. Someone said, well, instead of the X, Y, Z or anything, put numbers in there, and then the logic kicks in, like 2 times 5 equals 10, 10 divided by 2 equals 5. Just put numbers in there, and all of a sudden it clicked.
Not for me. No, not for me.
Oh, okay. That said, you were talking about when things slow down, firing people, getting rid of them, etc. In the early 70s, we had, right after the gasoline shortage, there was a big slowdown in construction. And the local electrical contractor that I worked for up in Greeley, things were slowing down, and he called us all in one afternoon and said, gentlemen, I'm going to have to lay somebody off. We just don't have enough work for everybody. And one of the journeyman electricians there says, well, instead of doing that, how about if we all just cut back to 4 days a week?
Yeah.
And the boss thought about it for a second and said, if you guys are good with that, so am I, because things will pick back up.
Yep.
And sure enough. And so we all survived it, and it worked quite well.
Well, it's called, or at least when I read it, it's called Z theory. And the Japanese, I think, are the inventors of Z theory. And as I mentioned, when there's a layoff coming, or like you talked about, a bad time coming, from the chairman of the board of Honda to the guy with a broom on the line, everybody takes a cut. And the chairman's cut, although greater, is the equal percentage of what the guy with the broom takes. And so, as opposed to what I watched happen at once a wonderful outlet was iHeartMedia, or excuse me, was what becomes iHeart. And they just, now the heads of iHeart are building estates, on out on Long Island and pocketing big dough, the money boys. But they get rid of, hardworking, people that have they're just working people, as my dad said, just working folks. And they lost their gigs, so these guys are building estates with their money. To me, if you're asking for it, that's when you're asking for. But I watched strikes as a kid, and layoffs and strikes, and this marking Labor Day, and I came from a strong union family and worked, as a union guy, and that's why the union was there. It was because of how management treated the so-called, as my dad said, the working man. And the Japanese have and others have taken another approach. I like what you're saying, but it's the idea of how unions come about in this country. I was mentioning, we had a conversation with a caller. The United States of America has the absolute bloodiest history of allowing for trade unions and labor movements. And it isn't really until FDR where unions begin to be recognized. And
Right.
I always said that, like as we speak, driving down I-25 in their Beamer, sipping their latte with a 3-day weekend coming their way and vacations and insurance and health insurance, thank the union for fighting for that stuff, because that was unheard of before the union. And the union, through people like Knights of Labor and all of us who waded through or listened to people talk about, about labor unions and the battle for the rights of the working man, and sure as hell wasn't granted by General Motors or by Ford Motor Company. It was won in some terrible struggles.
Yes. And I have to agree that the labor unions have changed the working man's life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Way, way back. And some I see because of what I did in my later years of electrical, not working as an electrician, but an inspector and looking at all these jobs and stuff. At some point, I think some of the labor unions have they've lost their
stepped over the
work
line.
ethic.
Stepped over the line. Yeah, I don't argue that.
Because there's not a government job that ever comes in on budget, and it's all, I don't know. I could go into a lot of detail.
No, we
but I'm
talked
not
about
going
it when somebody sent me Franklin Roosevelt, who was the whole idea of a government employees union. That's a teachers union right now. That's the teachers union.
Right. Yeah.
We should not have. I'm pro union, but private sector unions, not public sector unions. And now with the public sector unions, the whole power of, and we've been talking about education, but hating schools, but that's in the hands of a public sector union. Unions, it's like looking at our current mayor, who I think is going to be one of the great failures. And he was a classroom teacher. He was in the union. So being an old union guy myself, and I think to myself, so when the time comes to negotiate, which side of the table, Steve, does this guy sit on? He's a member of the union, but you would
exactly.
But the management you would think is Denver, and I remember negotiations between the union and management in the mill, and they got pretty nasty. It's just got real nasty. But the trade union and labor union movements changed the lives of working men and women in this country for the better.
Absolutely.
For the
I will
better.
not argue that.
So but it's a good call. Another just a well thought out, smart call. So the Labor Day weekend wasn't anything that was, because Workers' Day, if you read the Communist Manifesto and read Karl Marx, it's May the 1st is Workers' Day. And so May Day And it was the Second International of the Socialist Communist Party, because I'm a geek reader. They started May Day, or May 1. And that isn't what this is about. This is about the trade union and labor movements in our country. And they were pretty diverse. They were diverse. The unions were, but they came up with Labor Day, and it's the Knights of Labor and all the old precursors. And they got Labor Day. And they didn't use May 1st, which was the Communist International's Day of the Worker, was May 1. So, and we have kind of like, the 4th of July and Thanksgiving, public holidays. Labor Day fits right in there, I think.
I do too. And of course, if the way this country's going, we may end up with May Day. Who knows?
You know what?
I hope not.
No, but you're not. You're just not wrong. And you watch these. Did you see? It's away from what we're talking about, but did you see the people that were trying to block the road to go to Burning Man? And Burning Man's that odd thing they throw in the desert. And
right.
Did you see the tribal cops? Did you watch what they did?
No, I did not catch that one.
They had plow blades for snow removal on the front ends of these big pickup trucks. you know what happened then? They
yeah.
They just smoked them. They went, get out,
Good.
Oh, you know what? I applauded it. I thought, and these are people holding up signs, death to capitalism, and a bunch of phony commies. And here comes these Indian cops, and they're driving big 4-wheel drives, and they got blades on them, and they just
do not mess with the Indians. I grew up right off the Navajo reservation in New Mexico, and you don't mess with the Indians.
They just smoked them. They just knocked them out.
Good. If they'd have shot more people during the so-called peaceful riots in downtown Denver, it would have ended much sooner.
You can't. No, it's like, want to end this? No, okay, I'll show you how you do it. But But those
maybe even rubber bullets.
Those tribal cops, they were not. Did anybody else see that video? Those tribal cops were not screwing around. It was like they just smashed right into they put up a barricade, and here comes the tribal police, and they brought smoke on them, man. They really did. And I thought, I did too. I thought, you're a good call, man. Thank you so much. It's just good stuff. It's remarkable. They're sitting down in a way that I think talk radio is kind of at least bent back to a little bit. Boy, just some bright calls. 303-696-1971. We started out this morning talking about hating school or liking school and hating school. And then we had Tommy and Jeff and Kenny on talking about old radio, and Crystal Baldwin came on talking about losing her husband, and that was the beginning of MC1. And MC1 now, I'm going to get DeAngelis on tomorrow. I'm doing 9 to noon tomorrow. And then this is Labor Day weekend. And maybe, when you stop and think, we do this weekend in honor of labor. And Labor Day is a federal holiday, of course, in first Monday in September, and recognize American labor and the works and contributions of people who labor and the achievements of the United States. And there was never a more powerful time for this country. Following the Second World War, we are and if you think about what's happened to this country since, but we're unscathed. And here comes all these guys home. And they're forming, these are the guys that formed the unions in the 30s. And we go to Michael. You're on a radio show. Michael, it's Michelle. I apologize. Hey, Michelle, I misread your name. I apologize. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good morning. Thank you.
Hello, Peter. I'm reading a book called, this is off the topic, but you're such an expert in it, in the Realms of Hungry Ghost.
Huh.
And you went, I'm trying to think back several years ago to Vancouver, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want your take, because he's a doctor, Gabor Mate, and he writes of treating those people on the streets in Vancouver. And once I started reading, I thought, I remember Peter Boyles talking about all this. And so what is your current take now as far as the reduced harm concept and I know you've elaborated for many years about your impression of Vancouver, but can you kind of just give me a summary of it? Because I take what you say is so much more important.
Well, I think I know that doctor, by the way, and I think it's so stupid. It would be like we have street alcoholics right now. So we build a big bar right by Coors Field, and we fill it up with alcohol. And people can come there and they can drink every day for free. And we tell them, but someday you're going to want to get sober. And it's like, it's so stupid. It's beyond stupid. The people that come up with these ideas, and by the way, they want to bring it back to Denver. That was one of the stories I looked at last night to bring on the air, but I thought this would be a better one. But they want to bring them back, and they're called injection centers. Mm-hmm. And if you stop and think about how stupid, and Mark Crowley and myself and Stefan were up there, and it's scary. They're so frightening. I never saw anything so stupid in my life. I mean, I've seen plenty of stupid stuff, but to encourage dope injection. And all I can tell you is history is the Chinese got addicted. Between our country and the British, we addicted the Chinese people to opium. And if you can read about the opium wars, and that was not lost, and I've been saying this for a while, that was not lost on the Chinese who are now addicting us. They're bringing drugs into this country, and they're principally responsible for those drugs. And what they are doing to us is what we did to them. And it was called the Opium Wars, and they traded. And FDR's grandfather that's where their fortune came from. They were the Delanos, and they made huge fortunes bringing opium out of the same places that American GIs saw opium, again, out of Afghanistan and out of the Hindu Kush. And they brought it and they gave it and they addicted the Chinese population and helped the so-called the last dynasty, the end of the Chinese rule. And that was done. And now the Chinese are flipped it, and they're bringing drugs into this country. And it's not lost on them. They know what we did to them, and they are now doing it to us. And there is nothing, there's nothing more frightening. And I listen to people talk about dope in this country without realizing where it's coming from.
Yeah. Well, I looked it up on recent research, and it touts that the success rate of people surviving overdose deaths have been very successful. And I thought, is that really solving anything? So they're touting, well, not as many people are overdosing.
It's a lie. That's a lie. What they do, in having been on that street, is there's all these old empty apartments. They die in those apartments. It's like, nobody ever dies on the ski mountain. They always die at the base. They die all the time. The death rate is incredible. It's greater than, but it's about what happens in the clinics, so-called clinics, where everybody's carrying a Narcanon can and, they zap them in the face. I mean, I saw stuff that we'll get Mark and Stefan, but I mean, you'd be amazed at how unbelievably stupid it is, yet alone they're killing people. And then they claim, well, not many people die. Yes, they do, but they don't die where these people record them. And they die in the back of ambulances. They die up in these little shooting galleries they have. And no, it's ridiculous. And I don't know. I think it's just another way to personal belief is these people, it's another way to ruin the country. I mean, it's really what I see happening. And they think that it's perfectly fine.
Well, I'm so glad I got to talk to you and to ask you about that. I've been hesitating, but if you get a chance, read the book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. I'd be interested in your take. And you solidified a lot of what I've been thinking to myself as opposed to some of this trendy research.
Remember one thing. I mean, and nothing in the Chinese have very, 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 very long memories. And they play something called the long game. We play the short game. And what we did collectively, United States of America and the British, is we destroyed the end of the empire using and importing a drug, opium. And it's not lost on them. And they're coming right back and they're at your throat. And more of these young guys are getting addicted to these drugs. Fentanyl is the Chinese drug. Fentanyl is opium of 2023. And it's a dangerous, dangerous drug. And when we were up there last, you could get it out of machines. I mean, it's like, and they're just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the mindset of anybody that would welcome something like that. But then you turn around, you look, it was the whole Mandarin class in China that wanted the opium in there. They could sell it to the people they called the coolies, to the very low class, working class, getting them addicted. And it didn't bother them a bit. And when the wheels came off, the Mandarins were there, and they were almost on the run. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I have such high respect for you in that topic.
Oh, you're kind.
Like I say, I appreciate your feedback, and I'll look forward to hearing more about that.
Be safe. Thank you. We have a line open. It is the Brauchler Show. I'm Peter Boyles, on the air everywhere, 710 KNUS. Great music and good morning. It's the Friday morning George Brauchler Show, September 1, 2023. I'm Peter Boyles filling in for George. We're back here tomorrow morning at 9. 96 will be the high, 95 Saturday, 92 on Sunday. It is Labor Day. It kicks off. We're in all kinds of open lines discussions. We have jam lines. Billy, where do we go? We go to line 3? 2. Bro. Oh, we go to Ronnie. Well, now, hang on just a minute. Get this straight. There it is. Hey, Ronnie. Ronnie, you're on a radio show, man. Good morning and thank you.
Peter, it's good to talk to you. Hopefully one day I'll be able to ride my motorcycle with you.
Anybody. Well, I can always ride motorcycles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did not have the opportunity to graduate high school. My dad took me out when I was 4 months of the 10th grade. And that's okay by me. I was able to go to a trade school, and I learned diesel mechanicking.
Wow.
And I am a master certified diesel mechanic, ASE certified. It never, of course, entertained the idea of going to a college, but I've been a small business owner for many years. Had a trucking business in Durango, and that prospered until the gas fields shut down. And so I went back to my trade of diesel mechanicking. And when I moved over to the Salida, Buena Vista area, I got back into the trucking industry. And I've taken on my son. He never was interested. I always encouraged him to learn trades, learn everything he could possibly learn of any of the trades. He did graduate high school, but I took him on, and he spent just 2 months learning to drive CDL, Class A CDL, and he has prospered since then. Of course, I do welding, I do electrical, I do plumbing.
Sure.
You know, I told him to learn every trade he could possibly learn. And of course, during the times of COVID, that's when I actually got back into the trucking trade, because they told me I was going to have to stay at home. I says, no, I'm not staying home. So, yeah, I went back to work, and I've been prospering ever since.
See, what's interesting, you make the case. We need all of these people to make the world go round. And beginning, I think probably, and I don't know what date you could put on it, that going to college was really, really important. And today, just in my reading to show prep, it is less and less important for people to go to college.
Yes.
And I wonder myself, I don't know. I don't know what I got out of high school. I mean, I went to high school, and I just, for me, it was from the fifth grade is when I marked it. After the 5th grade, I really didn't like school. I mean, hate's a pretty strong word, but I really disliked going to school. And I didn't see anything in it. And I'm missing it by a mile, obviously, but I talked to tons of people that like school. I mean, they really enjoyed going to school, and I wasn't one of them.
Yes, I actually loved going to school. When my older brother started kindergarten, I told my parents I was not going to be left behind. I actually started the same time as my older brother.
See?
Yes, when I got to the 9th grade, 10th grade, my dad had brought home some college level math books, English books that someone had thrown in the dumpster. And I got into those books and just, I learned, mathematics and college level English, and was advanced in my school classes.
I truly believe it. I honestly believe it.
Yes.
What kind of motorcycle What kind of motorcycle you got? You're right.
I've got the old 06 Heritage Softail.
There you go. That's a good bike. That's a nice bike.
Oh, I love it. My first one, I put a little over 50,000 miles and brought it up to Denver, and it was stolen from me. So 2 weeks later, I flew down to Houston and bought another one, and I've got 50,000 on that one.
Man, what color?
This one is a maroon color.
See, God. You know, somebody once said, how many's too many? And you always go the next one. But I know, man, we got, I know you're far away, but we have this big deal coming up here for Dave Baldwin and MC1. And some people show up on some amazing, well, it's like going to Sturgis. You know, you'll see motorcycles you don't even believe exist, and they got them, and some guys riding them. And so it's us. We'll meet. You take care of yourself, man. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks a lot. Thank you,
Peter.
Now we go to Greg. Greg, you're on a radio show. Good morning,
Peter,
710. Yeah, good morning. I'm starting again. Yeah.
Peter, the great one-eyed king.
The one-eyed man is king.
That's right. You know, when I was in elementary school, we used to get a new pair of shoes every year.
You bet.
So we suffer over the summer wanting to put those new shoes on, but had to wait till the first day of school.
Two times a year you got new shoes. Easter, back to school.
Now, high school, I was a wannabe jock. I thought, you know, I was like on the football team. I was the fourth string place kick holder. But I did get to wear the jersey on Fridays. And in my last quarter of high school, I needed 1 credit to graduate because I got kicked out of geometry. They keep telling me that pi r square, and I knew better than that. Pi r round. But I had this 1 credit. I needed 1 credit in English to graduate, and there was a group of us jocks who were in this class. We all needed just to get out, you know. And our teacher was the tennis coach. He was just keeping the seat warm for the teacher, and he says, "All right, someone here, give me an example of creative writing." So I'm cutting up with my buddies in the back, and I see this piece of wire on the floor. So I pick up that wire and I twist it into the word "word," and I taped it on a paper. And he heard us cutting up in the back, and he says, "Smitty, bring that paper up here." And I said, "Oh, my life flashed in front of me. I'm going to be in high school forever now. He's going to kick me out of this class." And he looked at this paper. He looked at me over the top of his glasses. He snarled at me. He took his big red pen out and put A+.
There you go. There you go.
And later on, I'm sorry.
What did you learn in high school? Seriously.
How to date girls, basically.
Yeah, Kelly Michaels.
Right. But here's the thing. Later on, my teacher, Mr. Kerber, he knew that I wasn't applying myself, and I really didn't care. And he says, "Smitty, I want you to go down to the special ed room and help out down there. They're shorthanded." So I was down there pushing wheelchairs around and working with a Down syndrome. And later on, I became a special ed teacher.
Now, see, that's one of those unintended consequences to the good side. But I honestly, looking back, and I can't say, boy, I really learned a lot. I just kind of learned, like, there was lots of fights, and I think I learned to smoke cigarettes. Learned to go off by myself and read. But, you know, there were those guys, man. It wasn't like, I don't know. I mean, I can't say, but, you know, but I talked to about a dozen people to get ready for the show. And a woman friend of mine, I talked to her last night. She loved high school. She socialized. She was, got great grades. She was good looking. I'm a great looking woman. She accelerated, went off to college. Hey, she loved high school.
Well, you know, since they told us jocks that all you got to do to stay eligible is get a C. Well, that's what I should. So I did.
Yeah,
I did C all the way through high school, but when I took the college entrance exam, I was in the top 90th percentile. I was
one of those
smarter
guys. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, and that pissed off the guidance counselor because for 4 years you haven't been doing anything. So I did go to college for a couple of years, but I think you may have said it. College nowadays, and even back then in the late 70s, was designed to bring a populace of kids into a community for 4 years.
Sure.
That was its main purpose.
It was just I think it's a way when you're applying for a job or grad school, whatever, that it shows that you have the perseverance and you learn the game in school. Like the teacher, particularly, you know, so they would teach or say or lecture you something. And when you took the test or did the paper, you fed it back to them what they said to you, and then you got a good grade.
That's right.
I mean, no, I mean, it's unless you want, and I would be the kid. They had these AP history classes, and I took a lot of shop classes. I wasn't any good at it, but you and your buddies go to shop class, smoke cigarettes, and I would take those AP, and I would do I discuss stuff with the teacher, and then I wouldn't take the test, or I didn't do a paper, and they used to look at me like I was an idiot, and I was. But it's a different time. I love your call, brother, man. Thank you so much. We go to Paul. Paul, you're on the radio show 710 KNUS. Peter Boyles for George Brauchler. Good Friday morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Man.
And, so on this Labor Day, I was thinking as I was listening to you about what the coal miners have gone through, certainly since the Biden administration, and how the union, the coal mine union's response since then. I mean, I never saw any kind of pushback, any significant pushback at all, and I still don't see anything. That I don't know how effective it would be, these days. But early on, it might have been a lot more if they, put anything forward on it. And I'm wondering if you can comment on both the union leadership, their role in that, as well as the guys, doing the work.
Well, it's certainly not John L. Lewis. I told the story before when we were at Cleveland, which was the convention that nominated Donald Trump, and there was Mark Crowley and myself and Chuck Bonnewell. And this is a true story. So we're in this convention center, and it was all around. People were walking along, and I see these guys, and they're in double knits, and they have on their helmets, their coal miner helmets, and they're not like, the boss put on a helmet, never had a dent in it, like the guys that come up on them furnaces that had those hard hats on, that there was no stickers on the hard hats, and there was no Steelers fans, or, the hats were nice and clean. These guys they were coal miners. And I went over and, hey, where are you guys from? They were from Weirton, West Virginia. They were coal miners, and they were there to support Trump. And to think of a a union that was really a Democratic union. I mean, remember Harry Truman gets sideways with, he's gonna take them and, make them go to work and mine coal and everything. But that's a tough union. And it had its moments as being a dirty union, but it's coal miners. And they were real coal miners. They weren't like jerk around coal miners. They were for real. They had the hard hats on, and they were there to vote for Donald Trump, because what had happened was Hillary Clinton said, we're going to close the coal mines. We're going green. And so right now, the new heads of the unions are caught because they want to be progressive, and they want to do all the right things that the progressive movement wants. One of the things they don't want is coal mines. And I grew up with miners, and the kids that their dads were coal miners. I don't know how much you know about it, but boy, that's a tough job. So I understand. I mean, the new present heads of these labor unions, there was a legendary guy, John L. Lewis, who was the guy who really unified coal miners. And he was God to those guys. These guys aren't that guy.
But they got voted in by the workers.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like I said, it's like, I can't argue that. Or they were the candidates that were put up to run. It's like, how did organized crime figures become heads of the when Jimmy Hoffa ran the union? How did guys like Tony Provenzano become the president? Well, I think he was in New Jersey or something. He was the Teamsters union president. How did a guy like Tony Pro become the head of the union. Well, the union's corrupt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have answers, but I do know that moment, and it was Bonnewell and myself and Mark, and they were for real coal miners, not jerk around guys with clean helmets on. They were the real deal, and they were there to support Trump because of Hillary, not because they loved Trump as much as how much they hated Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Good call. Well,
hey,
yeah.
On another note, you mentioned Bonnewell. How are they doing? How's their family? I
talked to him yesterday. He's doing. I talked to him 2-3 times a week, and he's doing great. They got the paper and they got their own blog, and he's doing good. So the best to him. Thanks, man. I got to go.
Thank you.
Billy Thorpe, Peter Boyles, right after this. We got about 6 minutes left in the show. It really went fast and went good, and callers were spectacular. I'm Peter Boyles for the one day off. George Brauchler, he'll be back on Monday. I get to do Tuesday afternoon, and I'll be here tomorrow morning following Jimmy at 9. It's September 1, 2023. Summer has come to an end. 710 KNUS. We go to the phones. This is Rich. Rich, you're on the radio show. Thank you, and good morning.
Hey, Pete. Good to hear you again.
Thanks, Bubba.
Yeah, I went to a one-room school when I was a kid.
Wow, where?
8th grades, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Right.
In a rural school. We had 8 grades, one teacher, and about 20 kids on a good year, you know. And it was.
That's like being home. That's like being homeschooled.
Well, not exactly. Well, luckily I could read when I got to school, and we had a spelling bee, and actually I won the spelling bee as a first grader. That'll tell you a little something about the school.
Let me pause you. You said something that I relate to. I can, and this is not brag, because I cannot remember not being able to read. It was my grandma. My grandma took my sister and I and
taught you how.
And no, we would sit on like both sides of her and read the comics.
Yeah. I couldn't read them. I made my mom teach me to read so I could read comic books.
Yeah, so
I was about 4 years
we
old.
read, I don't know what the morning paper was, the Post Gazette or something, but I remember Nancy, which is kind of a loop. But I remember being able to read Nancy. And I don't know how old I was, but I don't remember not being able to read.
Yeah. Well, let me get back to the school. It was kind of interesting because, you know, recess was totally unsupervised. So all we did was basically have fights every day.
Sure.
It was like Fight Club.
Of course.
The 7th and 8th grader, I jotted down some things. 7th and 8th graders rode motorcycles to school.
Love that too.
Harley Davidson.
No, for real. I believe that.
For real.
Sure.
And actually, one of the kids who went there had been kicked out of a reform school. And he came to our school. He fit right in.
Oh, sure. No, sure.
I
Listen,
tell you some of the games.
They just gave me the 30-second sign.
Oh, okay.
Richard, thank you, man. Great call.
Okay.
Great way to end. I'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 9 following Jimmy, and then I get to do next Tuesday. Stefan is this afternoon. Billy Thorpe, it is so good to sit with you again. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly Michaels, and thanks, Brian, and thanks, Kenny, and everybody who came in. Take care of yourselves. Happy beginning of Labor Day weekend. I'm Peter Boyle. See you tomorrow morning at 9.